What's up guys, Jacob here, back with another discussion video. This video I'm going to be talking about perfect pairing and slow fireball drive rush, right? So I'm going to give my ideas on what I think should be changed about them and kind of talk about like the problems that it's causing. And I might also go over some nuances with characters, right? Maybe talk about Ken, but we'll see. But either way, let's do it. The main issue I have with perfect pair is that it's covering up a lot of fundamental issues that players might have, right? So the perfect parry just covers too much stuff, right? It covers you having bad spacing. It covers you, not being able to anti-air. It can cover you for not wanting to freaking block. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to block a meaty, you could just parry. You know what I mean? Like, you just parry a damn meaty and get, a lot of reward, right? Backdoor someone, and you're getting most of the time a guaranteed punish kind of, which takes away meteor from your opponent, right? So like I was talking about the spacing and stuff like that, like if someone in this example here, if someone's trying to get out of the corner and goes for a cross up, right, usually you can like anti, right, you can cross cut anti or just space yourself better, right, so you can just deal with the anti, right? But players will literally just see it, right, cover so much options here, right, and just be in a bad space and then get a perfect pair, right, and then just set you back into the situation, right? So it's messed up, right? So perfect parry just, it seems like the better solution here. Instead of just having someone leave the corner and you get damaged for an anti, you can legit just perfect parry, throw them back into the corner, right? So it creates this like ambiguous game too, because also you can punish the perfect parry attempt as an anti, right, by just doing an empty jump into grab, right? Which should be fine, right? You're going for an easy option, right, to anti, so you should be able to get punished for that. But it shouldn't, this like multiple options, that's the problem, right? So it creates this 50-50 game, right, with your opponent just from a jump, right? You know what I mean? Just something so simple becomes so ambiguous, right? So almost where you have to know the player to be able to know what they want to do, and even then they could just switch it up, right? So it's definitely annoying, right? But like I was saying, it's easier to do that, right? It's easier to just parry. You get more off of it. You throw them back in the corner. You take away their drive gauge, and they're back in the corner in fear of getting hit by this, right? Or just getting drive rush for a lot of damage, right? Shimmied, right? You know what I mean? Into a long combo, right? We'll only get a long combo on counter, but still, right? The shimmy option is there, right? DJ set play is really strong in the corner, so getting that situation where you can just get a parry and throw him back, and on top of that you can just anti in the first place. There's just too many options that you have, right? And at the end of the day, the parry is the easiest option, right? Perfect parry, right? So that's kind of the issue. It's covering up the fundamental flaws that players have, right? So in anti-airing for sure. So what they can do for that, right? You've seen situations where if you do a meaty jump in, right, and someone perfect parries, right, it becomes kind of this neutral situation, right? If they wake up parry. Let me set it up. All right, so let me show you an example. This is what I mean. So like if I do a pretty like deep jump in, depending, right? I know if you immediate jump in, you're pretty much safe if someone parries it, right? Right, so like in this situation, I was -3. See, that's not punishable in this game, right? So I'm safe, right? So that's kind of what should happen if someone parries a cross up or like something like a pretty deep jump in. If you parry that, like I shouldn't be so punishable to the point where you pretty much like get a full punish. You take my drive gauge. You could throw me back into the corner too, for you not pretty much spacing yourself properly, and I go for the cross up, and you get that much reward for pretty much not having to hold the jumping. I mean, I understand you have to time the parry, but still, like that's pretty nutty. You know what I mean? But I don't know, it should be more of like a neutral situation. Like it depends. Like if you parry a really high jump, then yeah, it should be punishable. Like Luke's jumping or Ken's jumping, right? Or like a dive kick, right? That makes sense. That's different, right? But a cross up that you messed up kind of spacing, you know what I mean? Like, and if you get a perfect parry, you can throw me back into the corner. That's crazy. I'm -5, you know what I mean? Like, it's just nutty, right? I shouldn't be that punishable for that, right? At most, you should get a jab punish, right? At most, I should be -4, right? You get a jab punish, right? You go into your combo, and that's it, right? I'm out of the corner, right? I shouldn't be able to be minus enough to get thrown back into the corner for going for that situation. But that's my opinion. You guys can kind of give me your opinions on that. I think that if you perfect parry like a cross up or a jump in that's fairly deep in its jump in, you shouldn't be that punishable, right? I understand meaty jump ins are safe, but that's different, right? It shouldn't be probably like a meaty jump in, but shouldn't be punishable enough to get a back throw, right? To pretty much be able to put you right back into the same situation you're already in, right? Another issue with perfect parry is that, well, it's actually messing with another fundamental aspect, which is meatying, right? So perfect parrying or parrying on wake up can affect meatying, right? So if you practice meeting like your normals or anything like that, perfect parry pretty much is there to counter that completely, right? And the problem is if you have a long distance meaty option, parrying is almost a guarantee, right? If you're not in range to grab, why not just parry, right? You know what I mean? Even if you don't get a perfect parry, you're out of the situation. You don't have to guess high, low, or nothing, right? So you're forced to kind of run up and grab someone, right? In those situations, right? Even with Gao, like if a Gao you're trying to go for a low into overhead from a distance, players can just hold parry, right? You throw a fireball, I can just hold parry and then block this, or just negate all of that, right? I don't have to block the overhead or low. I just hold parry and deal with all that, and then I let go of it when I know that he's finished with this, and he might try to go up and grab me, right? So that's a problem. It's taking away all these things, right? It's an easy option on defense, right? To just deal with a lot of things, right? From a distance. So I'm gonna go over the media now, right? So in a situation like this, let me go over, right? So if I catch a perfect parry, like in this situation, right? I'm still safe, even if I don't get the perfect parry. But if I do, I take almost 3 bars away from Manon, right? In that situation, right? In that situation there, right? Because there's a lot of scaling to parry, right? So you're better off going for that situation, especially as a zoner, right? And that's kind of what makes zoners really strong when they get a perfect parry, right? They can go into the drive impact setups, right? And take away your drive bar, right? Your drive gauge, right? Or same thing, your drive bar. So they can get the punish counter and then go into drive impact and take away an extra bar for you going for a midi. So I lost 3 bars there because he woke up perfect parry and went for that sequence, right? As a zoning character, that's almost something you always want to go for. You know, with JP, right? Even with Chun-Li, right? It's not a bad idea. Rashid, right? Rashid has a good keep away game in a sense, right? With level 2. But there's a lot of situations where zoners are in favor for just going for a wake up parry, right? You know, Dawson, right? You go for wake up parry, you get so much leverage off of just getting it, you know what I mean? With not too much risk depending on the range that your opponent is in, right? And you already know this match is really like difficult for Manon, right? So getting that perfect parry into that sequence, just the game is just completely flipped around, right? You know, I got a command grab, and you got a perfect parry over either my medium punch or my meaty overhead, right? And you get that sequence, right? So it's tough, right? That's kind of the problem, right? You're not really risking too much. I would have to dash up and grab you, and then I have to know that you're gonna go for that, you know what I mean? And react. Like really late, like if I'm going into the drive rush, I have to wait a little bit. But all that's just a 50-50. And on top of that, you know, I'm still guessing wake up DP, right? You still have that option, right? Some characters, right? Can still just DP on top of that defensive option. Or wake up a jab, right? There's so many defensive options that I'm guessing, right? So I'm gonna go another like meaty situation with Manon. This is more 50-50, but characters who have like meaty setups in the corner, you know what I mean? You wake up parry against it, you know, you get a lot of reward, right? In this situation against Manon, it's not really the best idea to perfect parry, but if you do, you pretty much put it in a bad position. It's more rewarding if your character's really good on offense and you're put into the corner and you get a perfect parry, right? But with a character who has a command grab, you're not really, it's not a good idea to wake up with parry. But it's a guess, right? If you guess right, you get a lot off of it, right? If I guess right and I command grab your parry, I get to take a bar and, you know, extra damage. So I guess it's kind of a little more even in that situation, kind of. But yeah, it's still like 50-50, right? But some characters who don't have command grabs, then there's less risk in going for wake up parry. Because getting thrown sometimes isn't the worst. Like you don't take too much damage, right? Against a normal throw that sometimes players would just do it again, right? And they get their perfect parry, right? They put you in the corner. And if your character's really strong on offense, that's just all you need, right? You know what I mean? So yeah. That's just another situation of like getting the perfect parry in the corner and you pretty much just turn the tide of a game, right? So That's the problem mostly with perfect parry. It's causing such heavy tides or swings in the game to where it just becomes so ambiguous, right? To get perfect parry, right? Or to be looking out for it, you know what I mean? But the best thing to do maybe to fix that is to either, well, I don't know if you should add more startup to it. Because for meaties, you can add more startup to the parry so that you can't just wake up with it, right? So if you meaty, the parry will get crushed, right? But the problem is that if someone drive rush in your face in neutral, being able to perfect parry, right, to deal with that, you know what I mean? Because that's kind of becoming the option to deal with drive rush normal and neutral, right? It's perfect parrying. I'm gonna show an example of what I was talking about. So a lot of people are utilizing parry for dealing with drive rush in neutral, right? So, I mean, it's good, right? Like if someone's trying to just drive rush in your face, you can use parry a lot, right? Because most people are using normal, right? They're not really, what do you call it? They're not really just doing it to grab a lot of times, right? A lot of people just trying to check your reactions and to try to catch something in neutral that you're trying to challenge back with, right? So a lot of people just opting to just parry, right? They time it and they parry and they get a punish, right? So in that situation, isn't a problem, right? So having startup on the parry is a good thing in that situation. But what they can do to, if they don't, see the thing is if they take away the startup on parry to deal with meatying, right? So you can't just, what do you call it, wake up parry on a meaty, right? You pretty much get your meaty, right? If you try to wake up parry on meaty, you get punished, right? So the problem with that is it will make it harder to react in neutral against drive rush, right? If people are drive rushing, your parry is slower, and it's gonna take it's gonna be a lot harder to time it. You know what I mean? Because you don't have that startup on your parry. So what they can do is maybe adjust it for only when you're waking up, right? So if you wake up with a parry, it's like a wake up option, right? So if you wake up parry, it's a slower option than if you parry in neutral, right? They can do that, right? So that people aren't just mindlessly waking up with parry on wake up and they're just catching meaty options, right? Because meaty is a fundamental thing, you know, that there's some that, you know, you practice and stuff, right? And it gets beaten up by something that you just, you know, pressing two buttons, you know what I mean? Like, this universal mechanic just automatically is beating, you know, a fundamental aspect like meaties. That's the problem, right? I think that's it. That's mostly what I want to talk about with perfect parrying, right? Those are my ideas for adjusting it, right? So you can slow down perfect parry or parrying on wake up, right? If you wake up parry, it should be a little slower. Don't change parrying in neutral, right, to deal with drive rushes in your face, right? But if they adjust drive rush normals, then maybe there won't be a big deal, but yeah. And then don't make perfect parrying a deep jump in so punishable, you know. Like if you're midway or you're almost pretty much down there, right? You know, only immediate jump-ins cannot be punished. It's pretty crazy, right? That should be like, even for a pretty deep jump-in. If you perfect parry it, should still be like -4 at most. Just a light punish, nothing crazy. You shouldn't be able to throw me. And then cause like a, because you can just backthrow me, right? Being able to backthrow someone back to the corner and just pretty much, you know, destroy that whole situation for pretty much not even reacting, you know, barely reacting. It's bad, right? It's bad. It's an easy OS. It's a lazy and easy OS for that situation. But yeah, that's my ideas for changing up perfect parry. Alright, so now I'm gonna go over slow fireball drive rush. I'm probably not gonna go over this too much. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm just kind of gonna give my idea for changing it. Right, so the problem is, in my opinion, is that you pretty much can activate drive rush like instantly after a fireball. There's not a lot of recovery after throwing a fireball, so it allows you to pretty much trail behind a lot of fireballs with drive rush, right? And you become very plus, right? Know what I mean? So you can lead behind in a lot of situations, right? And depending on what your opponent press, right, you get a lot of you know, you get a lot of advantage off of it, right? So, and it's very risky to try to challenge back after that, right? So what happens is a lot of people take advantage of it and pretty much would do other things off of it, right? I keep setting them to low forward, but yeah, it's just, you can't engage, right? It's just free like engagement. If you try to jump over that, if I'm in the middle of here, I recover, right? I can cross cut you or DP, right? Because I'm free to do whatever once I'm in drive, what do you call it, drive rush. So it's almost as good as like a fireball and a DP, right? So there's just, you just recover too fast after fireballs, in my opinion, in general, I think. But to deal with the non-engaging factor with the drive rush leading behind the fireball, right? Just make drive rush not be able to be activated after a fireball, right? Add more of a recovery window for drive rush to be activated after fireball. Like, you can still do other things, right? I mean, Ken has a run, right? He can still run in a little bit, right? He can still do things, right? You know what I mean? So, I mean, other characters can, but some characters can recover faster off a fireball, so there's that, right? So yeah, like, there should be a longer activation window after fireball to be able to go into drivers. You shouldn't be able to go into drivers right away. My idea for changing is just to add more recovery, or add more of an activation window for just drivers, right? You can do other things sooner, so you can still DP after fireball, right? You still want that fundamental aspect to still be in the game, but right, this is crazy, right? Being able to leave behind a fireball and get plus frames, right, off of it, right? It's really messed up, right? And you can't really engage. That's the problem. There's no engagement in that situation. You're just guaranteed to have to hold certain things, right? If you're not ready. But yeah, I know I set him to low 4. I can do other things, alright? You know what I mean? But yeah, you get the idea, right? Guys, I kind of feel like ending the video here, but I'll talk a little bit about Ken. So, well, Ken doesn't really have a lot of flaws in the first place, right? So he utilizes the mechanics really well, right? So his drive rush is really good. It goes really far. He's level 1, right? He can pretty much do this, right? He gets immediate off his level 1, right? His side switches and he gets media, right? So it's pretty dumb, right? He can utilize this, right? You've seen that a lot, I'm pretty sure. He just has pretty much everything and more, right? He has this run thing where he can cancel it into level 2, right? So in combos he can utilize this, right? If he's in burnout, right, he can do those, you know, combos and get a little extra damage, right? He has a lot of little nuances about him, right? He has a lot of setups with the overhead that can go meaty and he can combo off it and get a whole, you know, corner carry string. I don't know if he's the only character, but I think he's one of the few characters that can link jive into a medium, right? Right, in that situation there, so there's that. His Genrai is really like degenerate because if you're not ready for it, which a lot of times you, or sometimes you won't be, like some Kens that learn to just throw that shit out in the most random spot, right? So if you're not looking out for it, he's just getting free plus frames on you. He's just taking your turn, right? In neutral, right? Some Kens will just do something random and just throw it out, right? So it's not as predictable as, you know, you might think to react to it. But yeah. So yeah, he just has a lot of options. There's so many options. If you don't have a DP, Genrai is really annoying to deal with, right? You can't just get a guaranteed punish off of Genrai, right? He can just loop through you, and if you try to parry, he can just walk up and grab you, right? So he's kind of controlling the pace against characters that don't really have DPs either, right? He's just really good. You guys see me, like, you know, take advantage of people in Master just because he's just that good. You know what I mean? He just has so many options you have to be aware of, you know? He just takes advantage of so many things in the game, right? And it's mostly just this too, right? You know? Challenging with this is really good, right? He just has a lot of stuff, right? You have to be looking out for. And if you're ready, you're ready for it. But if you're not, you know, he really can, you know, shit on you for it. And he has good throw loops, right? And if you guess right, you guess right. You know what I mean? But you're guessing, right? At the end of the day, it's a 50-50, and it's more in his favor, right? I don't want to drop in the meaties. But yeah. Either way, he has a lot of setups, right, that you can do. But yeah. Just so many options, too many options, on top of utilizing the mechanics of the game makes him really strong. I can go over it, but I mean, it's too much. There's a lot of things to go over with this character. He has a lot of stuff, but yeah. But that's kind of just an example of just all the things he has that, you know, you can take advantage of, right? And I don't really know what you could do to tweak him, to be honest. I mean, I guess the first thing you could do is just make Genrai, not Genrai, his Dragon Last maybe 0, not +1. You know, a full screen or mid-screen move that if you don't react to, he's plus. You know, I mean, dude on perfect parry, he's still plus, right? Less risk on this side, but yeah. Alright guys, I'm in here. Again, I appreciate if you guys give me some feedback on my ideas, and just let me know your ideas as well. Like, what do you think should be, you know, do you have any ideas for changing up any of these mechanics as well? Or tweaking Ken as well? Just let me know. And as always, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. And with that, I'll see you guys later. Peace.